And until you learn to master that internal struggle, you'll always find yourself stuck on the wrong side of the invisible wall. Long before modern science tried to unravel the mysteries of the mind, ancient warriors in Japan had already discovered a secret that set them apart from everyone else. While most people believed that victory belonged to the strongest or the most skilled, the legendary samurai knew there was something far more important at play. They called it a Fudoshin, the unmoving mind. To outsiders, it sounded almost mystical, like a hidden power reserved for the chosen few. But for the samurai, it was the foundation of everything they did. It wasn't about swinging a sword with perfect technique or memorizing every possible move. It was about remaining calm and clear-headed, even when chaos erupted all around them. What's truly fascinating is that centuries later, science is finally catching up to what these warriors already knew. Neuroscientists have begun to study what happens in the brain during moments of extreme pressure. At Stanford University, researchers have found that when you train yourself to observe your thoughts, rather than getting swept away by them, you actually change the way your brain responds to stress. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thinking and decision-making, becomes more active. Meanwhile, the amygdala, which triggers fear and panic, starts to quiet down. In other words, by learning to watch your thoughts instead of obeying them, you're literally rewiring your brain to stay calm under pressure. This connection between ancient wisdom and modern science is more than just a coincidence. It's proof that the real key to high performance isn't just about what you know or how hard you train. It's about how you handle the storm inside your own mind. The samurai understood that the battlefield was only half the fight. The other half was invisible, taking place in the mind of every warrior. Today, whether you're facing a high-stakes meeting, a difficult conversation, or a life-changing decision, the same principle applies. The difference between those who rise to the occasion and those who crumble isn't found in their skills or their knowledge. It's found in their ability to remain steady when everything else is shaking. And now, with both ancient tradition and cutting-edge science pointing to the same truth, it's clear, mastering your mind is the ultimate advantage. Let's step into the world of feudal Japan, where the art of the samurai was more than just a way of fighting. It was a way of living. In a renowned samurai school, discipline was everything. Among the apprentices was a young man named Satoshi, whose dedication was unmatched. He was the first to rise in the morning, the last to leave the training grounds at night. Every movement, every technique, every lesson was etched into his mind through relentless repetition. His peers admired his precision, his instructors praised his form, and on the surface, Satoshi seemed destined for greatness. But beneath that polished exterior, a silent struggle was brewing. Despite his tireless efforts, Satoshi faced a humiliating pattern. During combat training, when the pressure was on and all eyes were watching, he lost again and again. Sometimes he was defeated by beginners who barely knew the basics. Each loss stung more than the last, not because he lacked skill, but because he knew he should have won. The real battle wasn't against his opponents, it was against the storm raging inside his own mind. Before every duel, anxiety would creep in, his heart would pound, his hands would tremble, and a voice in his head would whisper, "What if you fail? What if you fail? What if everyone sees you're not as good as they think?" By the time the wooden swords clashed, Satoshi was already defeated, not by his rival, but by his own fear. After each loss, Satoshi's solution was always the same: train harder, learn more, push himself further. He believed that if he just mastered one more technique, if he just became a little stronger, the fear would finally disappear. But the harder he worked, the more the pressure seemed to grow. It was a vicious cycle, one that many people today can relate to. Maybe you felt it too. You prepare endlessly, convinced that more knowledge or more practice will finally make you immune to nerves. But when the critical moment arrives, your mind betrays you, and all your preparation seems to vanish. Satoshi's story is a mirror for anyone who's ever felt paralyzed by self-doubt at the worst possible time. It's a reminder that the real enemy isn't always the challenge in front of you, but the fear within you. And until you learn to face that fear head-on, no amount of training will set you free. Satoshi's journey was about to take a turn, not because he found a new technique, but because he was finally ready to confront the true source of his struggle. After his 10th straight defeat, something inside Satoshi finally snapped. It wasn't his discipline or his willpower. It was the illusion that more training would solve everything. Frustrated and desperate for answers, he sought out the school's master, a man named Tatsuo, whose reputation for both skill and serenity was legendary. Tatsuo was known not just for his unmatched swordsmanship, but for a calmness that seemed almost supernatural. No matter what chaos erupted around him, he remained as steady as a mountain. Satoshi knelt before him, his voice trembling with a mix of shame and hope. "Master, I train more than anyone. I know every technique, but when I fight for real, I lose. What am I doing wrong?" Tatsuo didn't answer right away. He let the silence stretch, forcing Satoshi to sit with his discomfort. Finally, he spoke, his words simple but piercing. "You are a master of the sword. But the sword does not fight on its own. Have you ever wondered who is holding your sword when you step into combat?" Satoshi blinked, confused. "Me, master," he replied, unsure. Tatsuo shook his head. "Oh, no, your fear is holding your sword. Your anger, your need to prove yourself, these emotions are fighting in your place, and they always lose." It was a revelation that cut deeper than any blade. Tatsuo explained that there was a mental state the samurai called Fudoshin, the unmoving spirit. It wasn't about erasing fear or pretending to be fearless. It was about not letting those emotions take control. And no matter what happens, Tatsuo said, the mind must remain like a mountain, immovable, unshakable. The enemy's attack, the fear of failure, the pressure of the moment, none of it can move you if your mind is still. Satoshi, still wrestling with doubt, asked, "But how can anyone not feel fear in the face of danger?" Tatsuo smiled, a knowing glint in his eyes. "You think I don't feel fear? I do. The difference is, my fear does not control my sword. I see it, I acknowledge it, but I do not obey it. This was the secret that separated the ordinary from the extraordinary, not the absence of fear, but the refusal to let fear dictate your actions." This lesson shattered everything Satoshi thought he knew about strength. It wasn't about piling on more knowledge or perfecting every move. It was about mastering the mind that wielded the sword. And for the first time, Satoshi realized that the real battle had always been within. Tatsuo didn't send Satoshi back to the training grounds. Instead, he led him to a quiet corner of the temple, where a small Zen garden waited, untouched and serene. There were no swords, no opponents, no drills, just the sound of wind in the trees and the gentle crunch of gravel underfoot. "Eat it," Tatsuo instructed, and Satoshi obeyed, settling onto the cool earth. He expected some secret technique, a hidden move that would finally unlock his potential. But Tatsuo's lesson was far simpler and far more difficult. "Breathe," he said. "Observe your thoughts as if you were watching clouds drift across the sky. Don't fight them. Don't cling to them. Just watch." At first, Satoshi's mind was a storm. Thoughts crashed into each other, memories of lost duels, worries about what others thought, endless lists of techniques he still needed to master. Every emotion felt overwhelming, every distraction impossible to ignore. But Tatsuo was patient. "Your mind is like water in a storm," he explained. "Turbulent water reflects nothing. It only distorts. To see clearly, the water must become still." Day after day, Satoshi returned to the garden before dawn. He sat in silence, breathing, watching his thoughts come and go. It was agonizing at first. Every time a thought appeared, he wanted to chase it or push it away. But slowly, something began to shift. He noticed a tiny space, a brief pause between the moment a thought arose and the moment he reacted to it. In that space, he found a choice. He could let the thought pass without following it. He could feel an emotion without letting it take over. Tatsuo called this space the home of Fudoshin. In this space, you are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the observer. And the observer is never shaken by what he observes. This was the heart of the unmoving mind, not the absence of feeling, but the ability to witness every feeling without being swept away. Modern science now confirms what Tatsuo taught. Neuroscientists at Stanford have discovered that when you practice observing your own thoughts, what they call metacognition, you activate the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that helps you stay calm and make decisions. At the same time, you quiet the amygdala, the region that triggers fear and panic. In other words, you're not just calming your mind, you're rewiring your brain to handle stress with clarity and control. For Satoshi, this practice became a new kind of training. It was no longer about perfecting his swordsmanship, but about mastering the space between thought and action. And in that space, he discovered a power that no opponent could ever take away. 3 months passed, and Satoshi's training looked nothing like what the other apprentices were doing. While they drilled sword techniques and sparred in the dojo, he spent his mornings in silent meditation, learning to watch his thoughts drift by without grabbing onto them. Then, one morning, Tatsuo approached him with a simple announcement. "Tomorrow, you will duel again." The words sent a familiar jolt of anxiety through Satoshi's body. His heart raced, his palms grew damp, and old doubts began to whisper in his mind. But this time, something was different. Instead of fighting the fear or trying to force it away, Satoshi simply noticed it. "There you are again," he thought, greeting his nerves like an old acquaintance. "You always show up before a duel. That's fine. You can stay, but you won't be holding my sword this time." The day of the duel arrived, and Satoshi walked to the center of the dojo, surrounded by the expectant eyes of his peers. Every physical sign of fear was still there: sweaty hands, a pounding heart, a mind buzzing with what-ifs. But now, instead of being swept away by those feelings, he let them exist in the background, like distant thunder. He didn't try to silence them or pretend they weren't real. He simply refused to let them dictate his actions. As the wooden swords clashed, Satoshi's body moved with a fluidity he had never experienced before. The techniques he had practiced 1,000 times flowed effortlessly, unblocked by hesitation or panic. His opponent attacked with force, but Satoshi responded with calm precision, his mind clear and steady. For the first time, he wasn't fighting his own fear. He was simply present, letting his training take over. When the duel ended, Satoshi stood victorious. But the real victory wasn't in defeating his opponent. It was in what he felt during the fight. A deep, unshakable stillness, like a mirror reflecting everything but disturbed by nothing. This was Fudoshin in action. It wasn't about erasing fear or pretending to be invincible. It was about acting in spite of fear, refusing to let it control your hands or your mind. Satoshi realized that the moments he used to dread, the racing heart, the sweaty palms, were not signs of weakness, but invitations to practice his new skill. Each time he acted despite his nerves, the fear lost a little more of its power. But Tatsuo had one more lesson for Satoshi, a truth that would take years to fully understand. Fudoshin wasn't just for the battlefield. The real test was yet to come, and it would appear in the most unexpected places. The quiet moments of ordinary life where the stakes felt small, but the challenges were relentless. Years passed, and Satoshi's reputation as a samurai grew. He became known not just for his skill in combat, but for a composure that seemed almost unbreakable. Yet, even as he collected victories and earned respect, a subtle frustration lingered beneath the surface. It wasn't the duels or the battles that troubled him anymore. It was the small, everyday moments that seemed to shake his peace. When someone insulted him, when plans fell apart, or when life simply refused to go his way, Satoshi found himself losing that hard-won calm. The battlefield was no longer his greatest challenge. It was the unpredictable, relentless grind of ordinary life. Unable to ignore this nagging sense of defeat, Satoshi returned to his old master, seeking answers once again. "A master," he confessed, "I have learned to keep my mind still in combat. But in daily life, when I'm disrespected or frustrated, I lose that composure. Why is it so much harder?" Tatsuo's response was a quiet laugh, as if he'd been waiting for this question all along. "Because you think the real enemy is the one standing before you with a sword," he said. "But the true enemy has always been your reaction to the small things. Anyone can be brave when their life is on the line. Few can remain unshaken by an insult or a minor setback. This was the brutal truth, Satoshi, and most people never wanted to face. We prepare ourselves for the big moments, believing that's when we need our strength the most, but it's the little things, the traffic jam, the careless comment, the unexpected delay, that slowly chip away at our peace of mind." Fudoshin Tatsuo explained, "Isn't a technique you pull out only when the stakes are high. It's a way of being, a constant practice that shapes how you respond to every moment, big or small." Satoshi realized that his earlier victories had only scratched the surface. True mastery meant carrying that unmoving mind into every corner of his life, not just the dramatic ones. It meant noticing when irritation or frustration began to rise and choosing not to let those emotions take control. Over time, people began to notice something different about him. Whether he was facing a fierce opponent or a petty annoyance, Satoshi remained the same, calm, steady, unshaken. The real enemy, he learned, was never the world outside. It was always the storm within, and the battles that matter most are often the ones no one else can see. So how does someone actually build Fudoshin, the unwavering mind that doesn't flinch, no matter what life throws at it? The answer isn't found in a single moment of inspiration or a secret technique passed down through generations. It's built, day by day, through small, consistent practices that gradually reshape the way you respond to the world. Satoshi's journey revealed that anyone can develop this mental strength, but it requires a commitment to daily training, not just of the body, but of the mind. The first step is simple, yet powerful. Practice observing your thoughts and emotions without immediately reacting to them. This can be as straightforward as taking a few minutes each morning to sit quietly, breathe deeply, and notice what's happening inside your mind. When a worry or frustration appears, don't try to push it away or get lost in it. Just watch it, like a cloud drifting across the sky. Over time, you'll start to notice that small space between the thought and your reaction, the very space where Fudoshin lives. Breathing techniques are another essential tool. When you feel anxiety or anger rising, focus on your breath. Slow, deep breaths send a signal to your brain that you're safe, helping to calm the nervous system and bring you back to the present moment. This isn't just ancient wisdom, it's backed by modern science. Studies show that controlled breathing can lower stress hormones and activate the parts of your brain responsible for clear thinking and self-control. Staying rooted in the present is also crucial. Most of the fears and doubts that shake us come from worrying about the future or replaying the past. Fudoshin is about anchoring yourself in the now, responding to what's actually happening instead of what might happen. This doesn't mean ignoring your feelings or pretending to be emotionless. It means acknowledging every emotion, but choosing not to let it dictate your actions. The truth is, no one is born unshakable. The difference between those who win and those who merely know how to win isn't talent or luck, it's mindset. Every day you practice observing your thoughts. Every time you act, despite your fear, you're training your mind to remain steady. The more you do it, the less power fear and doubt have over you. Over weeks and months, this practice transforms from something you do into something you are. Fudoshin becomes your natural state, and the world around you loses its power to shake you. When you look back at Satoshi's journey, it's clear that the real transformation didn't happen on the battlefield or in the training hall. It happened in the quiet moments, in the spaces between thoughts, in the daily practice of choosing not to be ruled by fear or frustration. The lesson is simple, but its impact is profound. When you build a still mind, the world around you stops shaking you. Suddenly, the chaos of life becomes just background noise, and you find yourself able to act with clarity and confidence, no matter what challenges arise. This isn't just a story about ancient samurai or distant traditions. It's a blueprint for anyone who wants to break free from the invisible chains of self-doubt and anxiety. The truth is, every one of us faces battles, some public, some private. We all know what it's like to freeze at the critical moment, to let nerves or anger dictate our actions, to walk away from an opportunity wishing we'd been braver. But the power to change that is already within you. Fudoshin isn't a gift reserved for a chosen few. It's a skill you can build, one breath, one thought, one choice at a time. So, ask yourself, where in your life do you most need an unwavering mind? Is it at work when the pressure is on and everyone's watching? Is it in your relationships when emotions run high and words can cut deep? Or is it in those quiet moments alone when your own thoughts become your toughest opponent? Wherever it is, know that you have the ability to train your mind to create that space between feeling and action and to choose how you respond. If this journey has helped you see mental and emotional control in a new light, consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you don't miss future insights. And share in the comments what situation in your life most challenges your composure. Your story might inspire someone else to start their own journey toward Fudoshin. Remember, an unwavering mind isn't about shutting out your feelings or pretending to be made of stone. It's about recognizing every emotion, every doubt, every surge of fear, and choosing not to obey when those feelings don't serve you.